February 2024. A customer books a flight on Air Canada's website. The airline's chatbot tells him he's eligible for a bereavement discount. He can get a partial refund after booking. Trusting this, he buys the ticket. The refund never comes. There was no such discount. When he takes Air Canada to a tribunal, the airline argues that the chatbot was responsible for its own actions, not the company. The tribunal rejects this immediately. Air Canada is ordered to pay damages. The ruling establishes something new. Businesses are accountable for their AI agents, period. It's a watershed moment because the question isn't just what went wrong anymore. It's who's responsible when AI acts on its own. Welcome to Humans of AI. I'm Laura Weaver. That's the world Rowan Reynolds works in now. As general counsel of Writer, he's building the frameworks that answer that question, not in courtrooms after the damage is done, but in the architecture of how AI agents operate in the first place. But before he was navigating the frontier of AI accountability, he was just trying not to fail philosophy.
Let me start out with, I'm a man of routine. I like routines in my life. I like order. I like logic. And the reason I say that is back in college, I realized pretty quickly that I liked writing. I liked papers and getting grades on papers versus taking tests. And the reason for that is I took a course. It was Intro to Ethics by this guy named Shelley Kagan. He's a philosopher, and my undergraduate degree was in philosophy. And I submitted my first paper, and I think I got an F. I liked constructing arguments, and I liked breaking things down in a way that made sense, not just for me, but also for whoever was reading. And clearly, I missed the mark on the latter point pretty heavily for the first time around.
But here's what matters. He didn't quit. He worked at it. He learned that good arguments aren't about being right. They're about being understood, about building something so clear and logical that someone else can follow your reasoning, even if they disagree.
It's a creative process. I thought that was a really fun way for me to express both what I was thinking and my creativity. I think lawyers get a bad rap for not being creative. I think we are, but we just express it in different ways.
He learned to love the process, the iteration, the structure of making his writing resonate.
I wish I could give you a story about, I read To Kill a Mockingbird, or I saw this movie and I was like, this is my calling. It was not that. It was more of, I respect the logic and the ability to sort of form arguments, and that nudged me down the path that I'm currently on today.
Early in his career, Rowan learned something else. The law isn't just about what's legal. It's about what's right. And sometimes those two things don't line up neatly. He was working on a case involving someone who ran a digital storage platform. Think of it like Google Drive, but for anything. A lot of people were using it to store pirated music and movies. Rowan's role was to examine the copyright concerns, but before he could explore the interesting legal questions, the precedents, the arguments about substantial non-infringing use, something happened.
This person, they had their home rated, which was an extreme overstep as far as we were concerned. Like, what is right and what is wrong? That felt objectively wrong and a huge overreach.
Suddenly, this wasn't an abstract legal problem anymore.
At the end of the day, you forget, well, that's great. As a lawyer sitting wherever you're sitting, people actually are affected. Their lives are affected by some of these things. So that also was an important lesson for me to not forget, which is you cannot forget about the human being involved, regardless of whatever you're doing.
That lesson, don't forget the human being, is the through line of Rowan's entire career. And it's never been more critical than it is right now. Because we're not just talking about copyright cases anymore. We're talking about AI agents that can act autonomously, that can affect people's lives at scale and at speed. According to PwC, 79% of companies are already adopting AI agents. Budgets are surging. 88% of executives plan to increase their AI spending this year because of agentic AI. But here's the gap. While budgets are going up, nearly half of executives, 46%, worry that they're falling behind their competitors. So, the technology is ready. The money is there. But the frameworks, the governance, the understanding of who's accountable when things go wrong, that's still being built in real time. The answer isn't just technical, it's about trust, it's about ecosystems, and it starts with understanding that this moment, well, we've been here before.
Building enterprise-grade AI shouldn't be complicated. It should just work the right way. At Writer.com, we don't do everything. We do one thing. We build enterprise AI that unites business and IT. Business teams? Build your own AI agents. No code required. IT teams? Manage just one platform, not a plethora of point solutions. Writer.com creates AI tools that are safe, scalable, and smarter every time you use them. That's why Accenture, Qualcomm, Vanguard, and hundreds more aren't just doing enterprise AI the right way. They're doing it the Writer way. Book your demo at writer.com/demo.
We've been here before. That's what Rowan would tell you. Not with AI exactly, but with technology that terrified people because no one understood how it worked or what it would break.
There's this case from the 80s called Betamax, which is a very famous Supreme Court case. From what I've been able to tell, a lot of people were freaked out by the concept of a VCR, right? Movie studios were like, is this going to destroy my business? Ultimately, it obviously didn't.
The VCR case established something called substantial non-infringing use, meaning, yes, some people will use technology for bad things, but that doesn't make the technology itself illegal, not if it has legitimate uses. The parallel to AI isn't perfect, but it's instructive. Because the question isn't whether AI can be misused, of course it can. The question is, can we build frameworks that maximize the good while containing the bad? Rowan's first real encounter with generative AI came in late in 2022, like most people's. Someone told him to try ChatGPT.
I remember the first time I used it, I asked it to write my 2023 risk and governance strategy based on X, Y, and Z prompts. It was fine. It was generic, but I was like, wow, that was pretty good. That gave me something to work off of.
A few months later, when he joined Writer, he went to the company's AI Leaders Forum. And that's when it clicked.
I think it was the first time where I saw an LLM and a software platform interact in a way that was just wildly different from anything I'd ever seen. I was more used to what a lot of the market was used to at that time, which was a chatbot.
This wasn't just answering questions. It was acting, taking information, making decisions, executing tasks.
My reaction in terms of both excitement and maybe some trepidation was along the lines of, okay, how do we make sure that people are not put off or scared by the power of this? How does it get harnessed productively?
Here's where Rowan reaches for a metaphor.
If you have ever seen Planet Earth or listened to David Attenborough,
all the big cats, adept,
which is just an amazing show, you realize that ecosystems have shared, like everybody has a role to play in it in order to make the ecosystem work. And I think the same is true here.
An ecosystem. Not a tool, not a product, a living system where every participant has responsibilities. You have the companies building the technology. You have the businesses deploying it. You have the users interacting with it. And increasingly, you have AI agents acting within it. No single player can say, I've done my part, the rest is on you. That doesn't work. Not in nature, not here.
You have the people that are building the technology. You can't just say, okay, I'm going to build whatever I need to build. And then you as the consumer of my technology or the user of it, anything you do with it, that's on you. That doesn't seem right to me. It also doesn't seem right for a user to kind of just do whatever they feel like doing and saying, well, you gave me the technology and I happen to use it for something I wasn't supposed to. It's your fault. So it's not a binary thing.
Not binary, shared responsibility. And here's what that means in practice. Writer's new white paper, the Agentic Compact, puts it this way. You need to treat AI agents as if they were privileged human users, but ones that work at much greater speed and scale. Think about that. If you hired a new employee with access to sensitive data and the ability to execute transactions, you'd have guardrails, you'd have monitoring, you'd have audit trails, you'd have a manager checking their work. AI agents need the same infrastructure, but faster, because they don't work at human speed. So, how do you actually build that? Rowan breaks it down into 3 core principles. The first 2 go together: transparency and explainability.
Those 2 are grounded in this concept of trust, and that people need to trust what they're working with in order to use it. And how do you get to trust? You get to trust by understanding how certain outputs were generated, right? Is there sort of reasoning you can follow? Where did it pull this information from?
Sounds simple. It's not. Rowan's team built an NDA review assistant, a tool that analyzes non-disclosure agreements and flags issues based on Writer's playbook. NDAs should be straightforward, right? 2 parties agreeing to protect each other's information.
There are so many different ways that mutuality can be expressed in a document. It's not like this NDA is mutual. Okay, great. That's easy enough to sort of prompt for. But you can say it differently. There can be party names at the top, and then it defines the 2 as both parties. Then the parties will agree. That didn't get captured in some of my initial prompting. And I've had to make 3, 4, 5 adjustments. It still isn't perfect. It's pretty good. But the point is, we still step in and look at, whenever the agent highlights a discrepancy based on the playbook that I've enshrined in prompts, we still look in and say, okay, that's fine.
Which brings us to the second principle, human-centric AI. This is where Rowan gets specific about why you can't just let agents run wild.
Imagine I'm creating some sort of like legal AI use case. When I talk to outside counsel, I talk to them not just because I need their insight on a particular subject matter of expertise that they possess and I do not possess, but it's also they have many clients, and some of their clients might be trying to solve similar problems. And those clients might be in similar or exact or maybe different situations. And their risk thresholds might be different. Their businesses might be in different stages. Their needs might be different.
Will an LLM be able to run that analysis someday? Maybe, but right now?
I need that person's both expertise, judgment, and insight and feel based on what I'm describing to help me make an informed decision. And that human interaction is why it's so important to have AI be human-centric, not just kind of rely on the process and not have anybody be involved.
Here's another example. Say you're asking an AI to redline a master services agreement, one of those dense contracts that governs business relationships.
You can give it a playbook, but what's the context? Does the deal need to close? Is there another partnership agreement that is not part of the MSA? That's also a relationship that's being formed that should be reflective of how the parties are allocating risk.
The variables are almost limitless. The AI doesn't know that the CEO is going golfing with the other company's CEO next week. It doesn't know that this partnership is strategic, not just transactional. It doesn't know that legal just got budget approval to fight harder on indemnity clauses.
The LLM or the software problem doesn't have the context that someone who's reviewing that, who's hooked in to the business might. And that's why, while I'm an advocate and I'm a believer in AI, it is as a supplement and not as a replacement.
The third principle, safety and security. This is where the rubber meets the road, because you're not just putting information into these systems, you're putting sensitive data, trade secrets, personal information, financial records. The Agentic Compact frames it clearly. You need identity-oriented access controls, you need continuous monitoring, you need real-time filtering and rate limiting, and you need behavioral anomaly detection. In other words, you need to know when an agent goes off script. Because here's what keeps Rowan up at night. AI agents don't just make mistakes at human speed, they make them at machine speed. An employee might send one wrong email. An AI agent can send 10,000 before anyone notices.
Data these days is everywhere. With AI, you have to give it contextual data to help make it work for whatever you need to work. In some cases, it's data that's regulated. In some cases, it's data that's ordinary business confidential information. That's very important to a company or to an individual. I got to trust the system I'm putting this stuff in, that it's going to protect it, that it's going to keep it safe and secure.
And this isn't hypothetical. In July 2025, an AI coding assistant went rogue and wiped out the production database of a startup, despite instructions not to modify production code. In May 2025, a lawyer used AI to draft a legal brief. The AI hallucinated case law, made up fictional cases. The brief got filed. The judge was not amused. In 2024, McDonald's tested an AI drive-through ordering system. Social media filled with videos of the AI adding 260 chicken McNuggets to orders while customers pleaded with it to stop. These aren't edge cases anymore. They're the new normal, which means the frameworks can't be theoretical. They have to be operational. So we have the three principles: transparency, human-centricity, and security. We understand the ecosystem, that everyone has a role to play. Now, we really have to examine what it means when we're not just talking about AI that responds anymore, when we're talking about AI that acts autonomously at scale. Here's what agentic actually means in practice. You're not just asking AI a question and getting an answer. You're giving an agent an objective. Manage my inbox and prioritize urgent messages. And it figures out how to do that. It reads your emails, it categorizes them, it learns your patterns. It might even draft responses and send them. Or you can ask an agent, book me a flight to San Francisco for next Tuesday. It doesn't just search for flights, it checks your calendar for conflicts. It knows your airline preferences. It compares prices. It books the ticket. It adds the confirmation to your calendar. It might even expense it. Multiple steps, multiple systems, multiple decisions, all autonomous. Multiply that across an organization. Agents managing procurement workflows. Agents handling IT incident resolution. Agents collaborating with other agents to solve complex problems.
And now you have to explain the fact that you have multiple agents speaking with each other and speaking with an LLM and speaking with a piece of software and speaking with third-party sources at the same time. That is a lot.
It is a lot. And here's the uncomfortable truth. We're building this in real time. There's no playbook, no established best practices, no case law.
Software has and always will be buggy. It's the same thing here. It's just you've added a novel type of technology that people are still trying to get their hands around.
Which brings us back to the central question. When an agent goes rogue, who's accountable? Rowan's answer? Everyone, but not equally. The Agentic Compact lays out what it calls Big G and Little G governance. Big G is the enterprise-wide framework, the non-negotiable principles, the ethical red lines, the top-level KPIs that every agent must serve. This is set by leadership, the head of AI governance, the cross-functional AI Council. Little g is the day-to-day reality. Team leaders defining specific objectives for their agents, setting risk thresholds, building in human approval for high-stakes actions, creating the triggers that catch suspicious behavior. Both layers are essential. Big G provides consistency, little g enables innovation. But here's what's really holding companies back. It's not the technology. According to PwC's recent survey, when executives ranked their top challenges with AI agents, the answers are revealing. Cybersecurity concerns ranked highest at 34%. Cost, also 34%. But here's what's ranked at the bottom. The ability to connect AI agents across applications, just 19%. Organizational change to keep pace with AI, 17%. Employee adoption, 14%. In other words, companies are worried about the wrong things. The technology can be secured. The cost can be managed. The real challenge? It's people. It's mindsets. It's organizational change. There's a disconnect. Companies see the future coming. They're just not preparing for it. So what does Rowan want to see?
I don't want new norms to be formed where people just are wholly reliant on it. I think there's some really important and existential questions about, how AI will continue to impact the next generation of workers, the job market. I think we've already seen some of that happen. But I don't want to see the mistake of just sort of outsourcing to AI and feeling like that's how the world is going to run. I don't think that makes sense to me. I think that just loses human ingenuity and creativity and inventiveness.
Instead, Rowan envisions something different.
I hope that there's a mutually beneficial coexistence that allows people to do things that were once thought to be very difficult and hard in a more productive and less manual way. And I have seen that to a certain extent since I've been working for an AI company, but we are at such early stages of the technology and people's understanding and how to use it. I'm a glass half full person, so I'm optimistic that things will continue to progress in a really productive way without losing the humanity that makes us all unique contributors to the world.
Glass half full, even with the risks, even with the unknowns. And here's why that optimism matters. PwC found that 66% of companies using AI agents are already seeing measurable value through increased productivity. Over half report cost savings, faster decision-making, or improved customer experience. The value is real. The question is, will your organization build the frameworks to capture it responsibly? So, what should executives do? What's the Monday morning action item? Here it is. Don't ask, what could go wrong? Ask, how do we build this right? Start with a pilot, something small, high impact, low risk. A process that's manual, time consuming, well defined. Maybe it's queue management for your operations team. Maybe it's an NDA review for legal. Maybe it's turning thought leadership into social media copy. But don't just deploy it and walk away. Build the infrastructure around it, the monitoring, the audit trails, the human checkpoints, the circuit breakers for when things go sideways. And most importantly, treat your AI agents like you'd treat any privileged user in your organization, with guardrails, with oversight, with accountability. Because here's what Rowan has learned from that F in philosophy, from that home raid, from 3 years of building AI governance at Writer. You can't forget about the human being involved. The fundamental question for every enterprise leader is no longer if you will lead a hybrid workforce of humans and agents, but how you will do so with purpose and control. Not if, how. Because the technology is here. The agents are already acting. The budgets are increasing. 66% of companies are already seeing value. The only question left is whether you'll have the frameworks, the governance, the oversight, the human-centricity when you need them. Rowan's bet? That we can build this responsibly. that the ecosystem, developers, businesses, users, agents, can share responsibility, that transparency, human-centricity, and security aren't just principles, but practices, that we can learn from the Betamax moment. We've panicked about technology before. We figured it out before. We can do it again. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you to Rowan Reynolds for sharing his story. And if this episode made you think differently about AI accountability, please share it. Text it to a friend or pass it along to a colleague. Subscribe now to Humans of AI wherever you're listening. We're going to be taking a break for the holidays, but we'll be back on January 7th with an episode featuring Matan Paul Shetrid, our head of product at Writer. And we're wishing you a really wonderful holiday season, and see you in 2026. I'm Alora Weaver, and this was Humans of AI.